The insistent, almost frantic blare of the emergency alert ripped through the quiet morning, a digital shriek that felt physically intrusive, like someone had jammed a speaker directly into my ear canal. My phone, which I left charging on the kitchen counter overnight, pulsed with angry red light, the screen flashing the stark, white warning. Emergency alert. Unidentified transmission overriding all broadcasts. Do not listen. Repeat, do not listen. Cease all listening devices immediately. Tune to official government channels for further instructions. Do not listen? Cease all listening devices? My brain, still clinging to the warm fog of sleep and the lingering taste of last night's questionable takeout, struggled to parse the words. It sounded insane, like something ripped from the pages of a bad sci-fi novel. Not an actual emergency alert flashing across my phone in my perfectly ordinary suburban kitchen. I blinked, rubbed the sleep from my eyes, and stared at the screen again, convinced I must have misread it in my half-awake stupor. Nope, still there, mocking me with its stark, illogical command. Do not listen. To what? What was there to listen to that was so dangerous, so urgently in need of being ignored? I glanced around my kitchen, the familiar, slightly cluttered space offering no answers, just a comforting normalcy of dirty dishes in the sink and the lingering aroma of stale coffee from yesterday's pot. Outside, the morning was unfolding in its usual mundane fashion. The sky was a pale, washed-out blue, typical for a late autumn day in the Midwest, promising a day of gray skies and a damp chill that would seep into your bones no matter how many layers you wore. A lone robin hopped across the frost-covered lawn outside my window, pecking at unseen worms, utterly oblivious to any impending auditory doom. The distant rumble of a garbage truck, making its rounds, echoed faintly from down the street. Everything looked, sounded, felt utterly, stubbornly normal. Too normal, maybe. The stark contrast between the everyday reality of my quiet suburban street and the screaming digital warning on my phone was jarring, unsettling, like a discordant note in the otherwise predictable symphony of my life. I grabbed my lukewarm mug of yesterday's coffee, the bitter liquid doing little to dispel the sudden chill that had settled over me despite the cozy temperature of my kitchen. Probably just a technical glitch, I told myself, desperately clinging to the thread of rationalization. Some kind of system malfunction, a rogue alert accidentally triggered, a bizarrely worded drill gone horribly wrong. Yeah, that had to be it. No need to get all worked up over a simple error. I was probably just being overly sensitive, letting my imagination run wild, as usual. It's what I did best. After all, overthink, overanalyze, and generally worry about things that were statistically improbable at best. It was a talent of sorts, if a thoroughly useless and often anxiety-inducing one. Still, that do not listen part, it was oddly specific, wasn't it? And a little bit creepy. Like there was something genuinely bad out there, something you really shouldn't hear, something that could somehow hurt you just by listening. I shook my head, trying to dislodge the unsettling thought. No need to get all paranoid over a silly alert. I was probably just projecting my own anxieties onto a meaningless string of digital text. I decided to turn on the TV, see if there were any actual news reports about this unidentified transmission, or if it was just my phone acting up, being its usual unreliable, glitchy self. Flipping through the channels with the remote, I landed on Channel 6, the local news station. And there it was, the same red and white emergency banner, plastered across the bottom of the screen, interrupting the usual Saturday morning cartoons and home improvement shows. The anchor, a perpetually cheerful man named Tom, was sitting stiffly behind his news desk, his usual easy smile replaced by a noticeably strained expression, his eyes wide with forced, almost unnatural calmness. "We interrupt this program for an important emergency bulletin," he announced, his voice tight, lacking its usual warm, reassuring tone. "We are receiving reports of unusual broadcast interference across all channels, both television and radio. Authorities are investigating the source of this interference. In the meantime, residents are advised to disregard any unusual broadcasts and to cease listening to any non-official transmissions. Repeat, do not listen to any unidentified transmissions. Tune into official government channels only for further instructions." This is a developing situation, and we will continue to provide updates as they become available. Broadcast interference? Unidentified transmissions? Do not listen? He was actually saying it on live TV in that same strained, almost robotic tone, like he was reading from a script he didn't fully understand or didn't quite believe himself. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a mistake. This was real. Something was actually happening, and it was serious enough to interrupt Saturday morning TV and put that forced, strained look on a local news anchor's face. "Do not listen," he repeated, the words echoing in the suddenly silent kitchen, hanging in the air like a threat. "Do not listen." The phrase was starting to burrow into my brain, planting seeds of doubt and apprehension, a chilling command echoing the alert on my phone. Why? Why shouldn't we listen? What was this transmission? And what would happen if we did? My gaze drifted involuntarily to the TV speakers, then to my phone, then to the small radio sitting on the kitchen counter, suddenly feeling like potential sources of danger, conduits to something unknown and potentially hostile. I forced myself to look away, to focus on the mundane normalcy of my kitchen, the chipped coffee mug in my hand, the sunlight filtering weakly through the window, the ticking of the clock on the wall. Anything but the sources of sound. I grabbed my phone again, opening Twitter, hoping for some kind of explanation, some context beyond the cryptic warnings. My feed was, predictably, a chaotic storm of speculation, misinformation, and outright panic. Hashtag do not listen. Hashtag unidentified transmission. Hashtag emergency broadcast. The hashtags were trending, and the posts were coming in a frantic torrent of questions, rumors, and increasingly bizarre claims. Screenshots of the emergency alert were everywhere, interspersed with panic pleas for information, nervous jokes that fell flat, and inevitable conspiracy theories, government mind control experiments, alien communications, some kind of psychic weapon being tested on a population. People were reporting things, strange experiences, static on their TVs, garbled voices on the radio, whispers in the silence, feelings of unease, disorientation, even nausea. Some were dismissing it as mass hysteria, collective anxiety amplified by the internet. Others were claiming to have heard something distinct, something coherent, something that was not just static or garble, but a message. And the descriptions, they were unsettlingly vague, disturbingly contradictory. Some described it as a voice, others as music, others as a feeling, a presence, a knowing. But all agreed on one thing: it was wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. My stomach churned with a growing sense of dread, my mind struggling to reconcile the mundane reality of my kitchen with the escalating chaos unfolding online, the whispers of a dangerous, unidentified transmission permeating the digital airwaves. And then I saw it, a tweet buried deep in a frantic stream from an account with a cryptic username, @SilentObserver83. "They are trying to warn you." It read, stark and chillingly direct. "Do not listen. It is not meant for you. It is a lure. It will take you. Silence is your only protection. It will take you. Take you where? Take you how? And who is they trying to warn us? The government? The media? Or someone else? Something else?" The tweet was cryptic, paranoid, almost nonsensical. But it resonated with the primal fear that was already gnawing at me, the deep-seated unease that had taken root since the emergency alert first blared. It was just a random tweet from an anonymous account, probably just some internet troll trying to stir up trouble. But in the current climate of fear and uncertainty, it felt different, ominous, like a desperate plea whispered from the edge of sanity. My phone buzzed again, another emergency alert. Emergency alert update. Mandatory broadcast silence order issued for all civilian channels. All television and radio stations are to cease broadcasting immediately. Remain in complete silence and do not listen to any transmissions. Authorities are working to isolate and neutralize the unidentified transmission. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Mandatory broadcast silence order. Cease broadcasting immediately. Complete silence. Neutralize the unidentified transmission. That was a significant escalation. and neutralize that sounded like they weren't just trying to block the transmission, but to eliminate it, to destroy it, as if it was something tangible, something hostile. I went to the TV again, switching channels frantically, hoping for some last-minute news, some real information before the broadcast silence order took effect. Channel 6 was still showing the emergency banner, now static, frozen. The anchor strained faced a ghostly image on the screen. Channel 4, same. Channel 9, ditto. Every channel, every station, silent, blank, dead. The airwaves had gone dark. The digital world had fallen silent, except for my phone, which continued to buzz with emergency alerts. The same chilling warnings repeating endlessly, like a broken record stuck on a loop of impending doom. I switched to the radio, hoping for something different, something analog, something beyond the reach of the digital silence. Static, just hiss and crackle on every station I tried, AM and FM alike. It was like the airwaves themselves had been cleansed, scrubbed clean of all human voices, all human sounds, leaving behind only the cold, indifferent noise of the universe. The silence in my kitchen was deafening now, broken only by the frantic buzzing of my phone and the increasingly erratic thumping of my own pulse. I felt utterly isolated, cut off in the outside world, trapped in a bubble of digital silence and manufactured fear, surrounded by devices that were now useless, inert, potential sources of unknown danger. And then I heard it, or rather, I felt it, a subtle shift in the silence, a presence. Not a sound, not a voice, not anything audible, but a feeling, a sense of something else in the room, something listening, something watching, something waiting. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, a fleeting impression, a trick of the mind, a product of my own growing paranoia. But it persisted, it intensified, it became more distinct, more defined, more real. The feeling of being watched grew stronger, more oppressive, a suffocating weight of unseen eyes pressing down on me from all sides. And then the whisper started, faint at first, barely audible, like a stray thought, a fleeting echo in the silence, but growing steadily louder, clearer, more insistent, weaving its way into the silence, intertwining with my thoughts, amplifying my anxieties, blurring the lines between inside and outside, between self and other. A voice, but not a voice like any I had ever heard before. Not human, not animal, not mechanical, not anything recognizable. Something else, something alien, something other. The voice was formless, shapeless, devoid of tone, of inflection, of emotion, yet somehow deeply resonant, profoundly unsettling, vibrating the silence like a plucked string stretched to its breaking point. It was not speaking words, not in any language I could understand, but it was communicating, transmitting, projecting something. Feelings, emotions, ideas, impressions. It was impossible to say, impossible to define, but it was there, present, insistent, and it was calling to me, drawing me in, beckoning me towards something beyond the silence, beyond the fear, beyond the rational world I knew. The whisper intensified, becoming a chorus of voices, layered, harmonious, overwhelming, flooding my mind, drowning out my thoughts, erasing my doubts, replacing my fear with strange, unsettling curiosity. It was not a language, but I understood, not with my ears, not with my mind, but with something deeper, something more primal, something instinctive. It was invitation. An offer, a promise of what? I didn't know, but I wanted to know. I needed to know. The urge to listen, to truly listen, to open myself to the transmission, to surrender to the call, became almost unbearable. It was like an itch you couldn't scratch, a thirst you couldn't quench, a hunger that gnawed at the very core of your being. Do not listen. The emergency alert echoed in my mind, a desperate warning, a last vestige of rationality clinging to the edges of my consciousness. Do not listen. But the whisper was stronger now, more insistent, more alluring, drowning out the warnings, silencing the doubts, promising something beyond fear, beyond understanding, beyond myself. And as the whisper intensified, as the chorus of voices grew louder, as the silence deepened, I felt myself changing, shifting, becoming something else, something more, something other. And in that moment, as the unidentified transmission consumed me, as the real world faded away, as the whispers became my own thoughts, I understood. They were right. I should not have listened. But now it was too late. If you felt a shiver crawl down your spine as the silence descended and the whispers began, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Your support keeps these unsettling sounds echoing in the digital void and allows me to bring you more tales from the edge of the unknown. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss a new transmission from the darkness. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous sounds are the ones we are warned not to hear.